I went home so excited about the hike and told my auntie all about it. She said she hopes the weather's good, but it looks like it's gonna rain. But then I prayed to myself, please let it only be a 10-minute rain, and then let the New England weather change. So I woke up the next morning, and of course, it was drizzling pretty constantly. I was freaking out a little bit because I couldn't just text Henry, because he had asked for my number, but I didn't have his yet. I couldn't contact him to see if they didn't want to go hiking or not anymore. The weather report said the rain would stop, but it just didn't look like it was going to. Of course, James had invited Izzy and John over for breakfast, so they were there when I woke up. And they didn't understand my disappointment at the weather. I didn't want to tell Isabella that I had other plans with some people when she wasn't invited, because I knew that was going to hurt her feelings. Izzy insisted that I go with them to the aquarium, and that's when I told her I had plans with the Tilneys. And then John chimed in and he said that he saw both Henry and Ellie on someone's Snapchat story, that they had crossed the bridge and weren't on the Cape anymore, and they had gone to Boston or something. It didn't make sense because Ellie and Henry had not said to me that they were going to leave town the next morning. Maybe they had forgot plans or something? That's what John insisted, at least. He said they must have forgot that they had plans and didn't think to text me. They didn't strike me like they were forgetful people, but they also hadn't texted me. I didn't want to sit around all day by myself, so I ended up going with them to the aquarium. This is the painful part. We hopped in the car to go to the aquarium, and who did we pass just minutes from my house? The Tilneys, on their way to take me out. They hadn't gone over the bridge to Boston. John had lied to me. What a surprise. I asked for John to stop the car immediately so I could go and explain to them why I wasn't going to be around. But he refused and sped up even. I was instantly so embarrassed. How rude I was to the Tilneys. I could never forgive myself for it. We went to the aquarium, which was pretty cool, but it was weird. Izzy was on the phone the whole time just texting someone, and John was annoying, and I just tried to avoid him, and it was alright. I just felt really, really bad that I couldn't be with the Tilneys like I said I would. So that afternoon when we got home, I instantly ran out to the pump room to see if I could run into Ellie. Ellie and Henry and I had planned to go to the pump room in the afternoon after our hike, so I was hoping they would be there. I had a whole apology speech prepared to explain myself. But I got to the pump room and it was closed. They had closed early because the AC stopped working. At this point, I just felt awful and I went home. Auntie Ellen stopped me when I got home and she said she had tickets to see this a cappella group perform at a church downtown. I guess this all-boys a cappella group comes to the Cape and performs every summer in their cranberry shorts and vineyard vine polos. I said it sounded interesting enough, but I wasn't sure if I was up for it. But I did ask who else she thought might be going. She said that Ellie and Henry's dad, Captain Tilney. Here I was like, Captain? Apparently he's a captain in the Navy. Anyway, Captain Tilney really likes a cappella music. Good for him. So he was going to be there probably. So, of course, if I knew that Captain Tilney was going to be there, probably Henry and Ellie were going to be there too. So I said, Auntie Ellen, I would love to go to the a cappella show with you. And of course, when we got there, who did I see but Henry and Ellie sitting with their dad? It was awkward because we arrived sort of late, so I couldn't go up and talk to Henry right away. And at one point, he turned around and saw me and we made eye contact. I waved and smiled, but he just sort of looked away. At this point, I really thought I was going to cry, but I thought to myself, there's not a worse place to shed tears than an a cappella show. Anyway, I was determined that I had to make things right that evening. So after the show ended, I raced up to them and I instantly told them the whole miscommunication. Henry looked me in the eyes and actually smiled now instead of just looking at me, so that was better. And Ellie was very understanding. I told them I would have rather been with them any day than at the sad little aquarium without them. So it all ended okay at the concert and I went home. And then I got a text from Henry asking if I wanted to go hiking the next day. I was ecstatic and determined nothing could get in my way this time. But sure enough, the next morning, the three musketeers, James, John, and Isabella, insisted that I go with them to the beach. It was a perfect beach day after a day of rain. I refused them. I said I really couldn't, and Isabella stomped out. I was kind of confused by that, and so I followed her outside and apologized, but asked her what was wrong. Apparently, she doesn't like that I spend what she says is so much time with the Tilneys. But I told her that just yesterday I wasn't with the Tilneys because I was with them at the aquarium. Honestly, if she wasn't so obsessed with my brother, she would notice that I was trying to be a good friend to her, and I do spend time with her. It really didn't make her happy when I told her all the time she spends with James. So she stomped dramatically down the road. I didn't follow her. Honestly, I love her and all, and I really enjoyed having her as a friend, but I wasn't going to try any harder than I did. So I went back into the house, and James and John were still eating breakfast, and John had texted on my phone to cancel my plans with the Tilneys. Can you believe that? When I heard that John had done that, I instantly got very upset, and my uncle came in, and I explained to him the whole issue, and he said I didn't have to spend any time with John after he did that. I was so embarrassed I didn't want to just text the Tilneys, so I hopped on my bike and went over to their house as fast as I could. Captain Tilney opened the door and invited me in and said I was welcome to have dinner with him any time. I thought that was really nice since I had only just briefly met him the night before at the concert. I thanked him profusely, and then I explained to Ellie and Henry the miscommunication again, and we were off on our hike. We spent the whole day walking cliffside paths, looking over the ocean and talking. We had a picnic that Ellie packed, which was delicious. I enjoyed their company so much that I wished that they were the ones at my breakfast table every morning, not the Thorpes. The next couple days I had work at the pump room, but Izzy never came in to visit like she usually did. So I gave her a call one night and she seemed abnormally happy, which was great. I also tried to apologize for the little argument that we had had a few days earlier, and she just laughed it off like it was nothing. She told me she had totally forgotten about it. She didn't mention anything else specific in her phone call, but like an hour later, after we had hung up, I opened my Instagram. There are only a few things that you will see on Instagram and be totally shocked at. And let me tell you, this was one of those things. I was just scrolling through cute pictures of like dogs on the beach, and then I saw this picture of Izzy, ecstatic with her arms in the air at the beach. And the caption said, "I said yes," with like 1,000 exclamation points. I texted her frantically, and she texted back, my brother had asked her to marry him. Honestly, I was so off guard I didn't know what to say. I had honestly just thought they had been flirting the past few weeks. I didn't know it was that serious. I thought it was just going to be a casual summer thing. No matter what, I told her I was so excited for her. We were going to be sisters. As it turns out, they hadn't even talked to any parents yet. They had just talked about getting married. There was no ring involved. The next day, James talked to my parents, and they said that they should go for it, that he should get married to Isabella. After James and Izzy were engaged, there was like a few days where there was no drama. Thank God. But then a few days later, I got to go to the Tilneys for dinner. Let me tell you, I was very nervous. I arrived and everything went smoothly, but the dinner was sort of weird. I kind of felt like I was doing most of the talking. Ellie's eyes barely raised from just looking at her food, and I could count the amount of words that Henry said throughout the meal on like one hand. Something was definitely up. After dinner, we went for a walk on the beach without their dad, and they were a lot perkier. When we were walking on the beach, though, I saw in the distance Izzy and some other tall boy. It wasn't James. Izzy was doing weird things like punching his arm a lot and laughing really loudly. Henry and Ellie said that was their older brother, Derek. I didn't want to pry too much, so I didn't say anything, but it was very suspicious. After a few minutes, Izzy came running towards me with a very unpleasant look on her face. I asked her what was wrong, and she said she needed to talk to me privately. She showed me some texts from James saying that my dad wasn't going to give them any money for the wedding. It made sense because my parents were in the process of trying to sell our house, so they didn't have a lot of money to spare right now. I tried to explain that to Izzy, but she wouldn't really listen. She kept calling my dad selfish and stingy. I mean, I love her, but she's a handful.